Hey, Game Changers, Barry Maglady here, your host of the Comeback Game podcast. Today I'm joined by Renée Hasseldine, who's the author of 2 best-selling books, Share Your Passion and Game Changer, and the host of Leverage and Loving It podcast. She works with consultants, experts, and thought leaders to turn what is in their brilliant minds into powerful signature systems using visual models. Renée, how you doing today? All the way from Eltham, Victoria, Melbourne, Australia. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm great, thanks. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's awesome to be here.
Super pumped to have you, and really interested to hear more about what you do. Like, we work with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and one thing that many of them aren't that good at doing is kind of like extracting their genius out of their mind and putting it into some sort of tangible form that makes sense to others. And that's exactly what you do.
That's my only thing that I do. It's the thing that I love more than anything in the world. Don't tell my husband I said that.
Does he watch your podcasts?
No.
Oh, your secret's safe with us, like us and about 1 million other people around the world.
Don't tell him. He'll never know.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Yeah,
I've got a bunch of questions, but let's just jump straight in with that.
Yeah. So essentially, it's exactly what you're saying, is that what happens when we are the expert at what we do is that because we are so good at it, we don't kind of think it needs explaining. It's like, well, we just do it because we're so good at it. Yeah. And it's like, well, how do I explain that? So we can either kind of go into, well, you just do it because that's just how it's done. And I don't have to explain it because it's just so obvious. Or it's the opposite, is that it's so complex. And when we try and explain it to someone, we drown them in a knowledge vomit of jargon and whatever. Yeah. And the people's eyes are just like, oh my God, get me out of here. Like, we've all experienced that at a networking event, right?
I was going to say, if anyone's ever had the experience where they've gone in to buy something and like they already knew what they wanted and they're like, just take my credit card. But the salesperson tells them about this thing for an hour to the point where they sell themselves out of the sale. It's kind of like that.
Totally like that. Yep. Totally like that. Yes.
So how do you do that? Like, how does someone get like what is non-physical in terms of like thought bubbles or thought vomit, as you beautifully put it before, and turn it into some sort of like a physical model that makes sense to others? Because for those of you out there that don't know, like us as human beings, we have different ways of processing information. Some people tend to be visual, where they process information through seeing pictures. Some tend to be more auditory, where they process thinking, and you can kind of hear the differences. They might say something like, "Oh, let me just see what it looks like," or "Let me think about that for a moment," or show me how that works. Right? We'll give you indications around how they're processing information. Some are auditory digital, so they like to kind of like self-talk the ideas through, and you'll see that you're having a conversation. They're having their own conversation themselves while you're having a conversation with them. And then there's kinesthetic, which are more feeling-based people. And I found this out because I realized that my whole school experience, I wasn't educated properly. And it wasn't that I was a bad student, although I wasn't the best student, but it wasn't until I left school and started studying coaching and NLP and things like that, I realized that I'm not auditory. I'm heavily visual, and it's why, like, on the phone with someone, I've got to like doodle or do things to kind of extract and put down what I'm hearing into something that then my brain will make sense of and store the information differently. Yeah. And this is where I know visual models, because we use one for our sales process and the way that we design our programs, have such a profound impact because it touches on all those different modalities. So tell us more about that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You've pretty much nailed it. But essentially, like, and a lot of people assume I'm a visual person because the output of what I do is visual, but actually I'm auditory digital. And my whole business is based around my need to make sense of information, because the auditory digital needs to like understand information and organize it. Like, that's just what an auditory digital brain has to do. So when someone's information is coming in, like inside my head is like this room full of filing cabinets. And so the information is coming in, and I'm madly, as like someone's speaking 1,000 words a minute, I'm going file, 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 and then I go shuffle, 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 picture. And that's what my brain has to do with information. It's not, I can't turn it off. So yes, it speaks to all, the output speaks to all the learning modalities. So if you're trying to, sell something, sell a service, because that's the thing, if we're selling a service, It's very different to selling a physical product. Like if you're buying a car or you're buying a house, well, you can kind of, you know, you can experience it. It's a tangible thing. You can go around and knock on the walls and see, you know, how solid things are. You can look at the dents on the car. You can, you know, you can do, when something's physical, it's easier to make a decision, about buying or not, because it's there, it's physical, it's tangible. We can grasp it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if we're selling a service, which is the people I work with, people who are selling a service, it's invisible.
Yeah.
It's completely invisible. It's intangible. And how do you explain how do you explain it? Right. And so what the cool thing about taking what is in your brain and turn it into a visual model, and I say you've got to turn it into 4 because you need 4 for a complete set. The cool thing about doing that is that you make something invisible, you make it visible, and you make it tangible, which makes it easier for your clients to say yes to working with you. And it also makes it easier for them to stay with you because you can use it as the basis of your whole service delivery and to remind them where they're up to in the process. So that if they start kind of going, because we know that, you know, in the process usually of delivering service, there's going to be a point where the pain kind of gets a bit worse before it gets better for our clients in many cases. Right? They've got to actually push through some sort of obstacle, and we can use the models as well to help push through that stuff. So the models just have so many applications and so many benefits that this is probably why I just get like, I'm buzzing, right? Every time I talk about it, I'm like, ah.
A little cheat sheet for those viewers and listeners today is that if you are currently selling some sort of a service, so you're not selling a physical product or a widget, an indication that your prospect is not really getting what you're proposing is if they say, how many hours do I get for that? Right? Like they're trying to create something tangible out of the information you're giving them, which is what you're saying a model can actually overcome for a prospect.
Yeah. They're trying to value your time.
Yeah.
Rather than the result or the outcome.
Because it's something that makes sense to us.
Yes, exactly. And that is a super cool benefit as well, is that you move away from trading time for money when you have a signature system, because you can, and you move away from selling yourself as well, which many people feel really icky about. You know, if you're the service provider and it's all inside your brain, essentially you have to sell yourself.
Yeah, which is
that never sat well with me. I never wanted to go, hey, I'm amazing. You should totally work with me because I'm awesome. Like how do you?
I've met those people at networking events.
Yeah, have you? Yeah, they're the best, aren't they?
The other thing too is that I feel like when you draw people's attention in. So like nice. I found that when I'm delivering a training for our members or something at one of our events, if I'm sharing it, they're getting one level of understanding. If they've got a workbook to go along with it, they're getting another level of understanding. If I'm then at the same time drawing things on a flip chart or a whiteboard, separate to what's on a PowerPoint presentation, they're more so like drawn in. They're on the edge of their seat wanting to know where this is going. Whereas when you just click through a PowerPoint presentation, they kind of make an assumption of what that whole thing means. And there's not the same curiosity as when you physically start to draw something up on a board or a flip chart.
Yep. Yeah, well, yeah, you can totally draw it up on a flip chart. And I actually, we do for our clients that create the models into a PowerPoint, but we do it in an animated way so they don't get the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
So we'll show like an empty shell of what the model is, as if you just drawn the outline on a flip chart. And then we just add the bits in so that you can, click through. But yes, absolutely, it can be just as powerful or even more powerful if you are drawing it on a whiteboard or a flip chart. And it's a great backup plan as well. Like if you, as a speaker or a facilitator, I know the first thing I do when I get to a venue is I go in and I'm like, does the technology work? It's like, okay, plug in the HDMI. What do you mean they don't have HDMI? Who are these people?
Yeah.
Right. So so the technology fails, the cool thing about having everything already extracted into a set system is that's your backup plan. If the technology fails, get a whiteboard or a flip chart, draw your 4 models, you've got a presentation, no problem. Like you never have to think, what am I going to say? I don't remember without my slides.
Yeah. So how'd you get here? Like, where did this all start for you, the whole models thing?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a long answer to that. So I've been in business for 19 years and I I've been through very many evolutions in that time, but I would say I know that I've now hit the nail on the head in terms of what my zone of genius is. And that's because I'm playing to that strength of my brain being that sorting machine. And that's, as soon as I narrowed down my business to just be about that, everything just exponentially grew. Like, it was just insane, but it wasn't always like that. Like, you know, if I go back, I did accounting and finance at university. Can you imagine me in a suit and a Big Four? Anyway, it almost feels like a straitjacket.
Square peg in a round hole.
Yeah. I didn't quite fit into that very
Nothing against accounting and financing by any stretch of the means, but we all have different personality types that are suited to different roles and responsibilities.
Yes. Yep. And I actually don't even do the bookkeeping in my own business. I don't enjoy it. It was just something I kind of fell into. It's like, oh yeah, that's it. Got into commerce.
Walking along and just fell into a hole that was cold.
Yeah. Got into commerce arts at Melbourne Uni. I guess I'll go and be an accountant then. All right.
And so it's a bit of a flip then to go from being an accountant or being in finance to being creative with models. So like, how'd you fall in that hole?
So I started out, I was actually working my grad job was with Anderson Consulting. And so I finished uni in like the October, November of whatever year it was. I'm not going to say it. And then back in the day. And then,
when cream buns and scones were 25 cents from the shop.
And we walked to school barefoot in the snow. So yeah, I got into to Anderson's, but they weren't starting until April the following year. So I had like this kind of 5-month gap over summer of, okay, well, what am I going to do before I start that grad job? And so I actually got a job with an internet startup at the time. So this was before the bubble burst, right? So we were in the 90s, before the bubble burst. Got a job with an internet startup, and within 3 months, they promoted me from whatever I was doing to vice president of this company. And then we did a backdoor listing, and then all this stuff was happening. And suddenly I was just like, whoa, okay, Anderson, I'm not going to you because these guys are paying me 3 times more than you are. And I've got a corner office with mahogany desk looking over the MCG, like, see ya. So it was like this whole big whoa experience, and everything happened very quickly. And then I was like ticking all these boxes, realizing, oh, well, okay, well, I've got this fancy job title, you know, bought the house, bought the car, ticked all these boxes. And then I went, but I'm completely miserable. And I actually hit a bottom.
Y2K bug doesn't exist.
Hey?
And the Y2K bug doesn't exist. So what next?
So then I decided that I was going to do some consulting and go out on my own and do things my own way. So I started my own personal development journey, but I also started my own business at that point. So I started my consulting business, and I did a bunch of different things, but essentially I was doing business consulting, from strategy to, you know, lots of spreadsheets. I love nerding out on a spreadsheet, all of that sort of stuff. And I had a variety of different clients around the world. I helped a franchise start over in the UK, lots of different stuff that I was doing, and landed back in Australia, met my husband, got married, was running my business here, doing the consulting still again. And I was mostly doing I was helping clients who were experts. So I'd already found my niche, right? Because I've always worked with these people who are consultants and experts, but I realized, so I was kind of working with them to create their workshops. And so, you know, I had clients who were business coaches, but who were specifically working with dentists, or I had, my clients had specific niches, and they were really successful at what they were doing. And my job was to take what was in their brain and turn that into tangible programs. Like, I was creating the programs that they were running with their clients. So they were kind of like the thought leader, and I was the person behind them that, you know, when they'd go up and promise something to their clients, I'd go, okay, I'll make that happen. So that was kind of, I was doing a lot of that stuff, but my favorite part in working with all of those clients was the taking the genius out of their brain and going, oh yeah, let me get the best bits of that, and let me shine a light on that and blow it up and make it amazing. And that's kind of what I was doing in all of those ways. You know, for 19 years, I was doing that in my consulting business. But it wasn't until the last few years that I really narrowed that down into just doing the visual models and the signature system. So yeah, it was a kind of, it was one of those kind of, I stumbled across this as my thing. Yeah.
Most great ideas happen that way too, though. You know, when
Yes.
we least expect it, when we're busy trying to like make it somewhere else, it just falls on our lap.
Yeah,
So,
I was actually at a We Are podcast conference up in Brisbane. Hey,
Rawnsley.
yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was up there, and my general manager and I were there together, and we wagged the second day in the afternoon. I was like, I've got a brainwave. And we went off and sat in a food court with free Wi-Fi, and we've just built this whole thing about signature systems and models. We created it in an afternoon. Like I just suddenly went, I've got it. I know, I get it now. I know how to explain it. And it just went, and I created all these models. So like the sexy model hourglass thing that I teach, that whole thing, which is now the basis of my whole business, that came out while we wagged We Are podcast.
Oh, well, we won't tell Rawnsley.
Sorry, we came back.
Right.
Like it was
with a business on a napkin, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So over the last two decades, it's a long time to be in business. What's been the biggest challenge that you've had to face?
I would say that the biggest challenge is probably in the early days not realizing that there are seasons in business. And so what would happen when things went down, I would think, holy shit, this thing is dead. It is over. It is dead. It is broken. It does not work. That's it. And that would be my feeling. And I would panic. And it's only now where I realize actually business goes through seasons and cycles. And so there will always be a downturn, right? And that's just winter. It's not dead. It's dormant. And it's okay. It's time to cut back the old wood and get ready, plant new seeds for the new thing. Like it's just time to evolve. And so I've been through so many of those cycles now that when I hit winter, I don't freak out anymore. But I used to freak out. I used to really freak out and think, oh, maybe, you know, the people who tell me at the family functions that I should go and get a job are right? That would be like those brief moments of maybe they're right and I'm wrong would happen in the winters. Yeah. But now I know winter is winter is inevitable. And when it comes, it's okay because the spring is so beautiful. It's so exciting when all the new things are blossoming and you're just like, oh, this is why we had to cut back the dead wood. So I've just been through winter and I'm so excited because I know how cool it is to come into spring and this is where I am. And it's even synchronized with the seasons in Melbourne this year.
Yeah, I love that answer. I'm in Black Mountain, as I shared with you before we started, Asheville in North Carolina. Flew in here 2 weeks ago for a meditation retreat. And when we flew in, driving down the road, all the trees were green, even though they're in fall and coming into winter. And literally, I've watched over the last 2 weeks, day after day, being at this meditation retreat as the green leaves have turned, yellow to orange to red to brown and falling. And like by the time I fly out tomorrow, there'll be barely any leaves in the trees, all in 2 weeks. And I love that answer because it was something that I realized a few years ago as well, is that businesses go through these seasons. And the same as if you look at gardening and, the different seasons, it's like through the winter, allowing the soil to sit and starting to prepare, coming to spring when you plant, and then coming through into summer when you start to harvest and, put those things away coming into fall. And I think the biggest challenge is that most business owners don't prepare. Like they hit this good streak and they think it's going to last forever. So they spend all their cash or they take all the money of their business and they don't prepare for those seasons. But equally too, in wintertime, they try to hold on to all their staff. They try to hold on to all their food because there's no crops being picked, that they end up starving during that period of time without realizing that, like in nature, we have these seasons, right, that we go through. And we can't, as much as we want to like fly around the world, we can't avoid it. We can't avoid being in a location, having to go through those seasons. And sure, like winter in Melbourne varies to winter in Bali, but there still is a significant difference in the weather patterns. The same as in your business as well. Like you could be in Tasmania and have a bloody cold winter, or you could be in Bali and have a ton of rain. But realize the seasons are there. And equally too, I guess this to me comes back to being clear on what's the bigger vision for the business, what's the bigger goals for the business, and planning that into your strategic planning so that when it happens, you can enjoy it rather than freaking out about it.
Exactly. Yep. And also to not be afraid to change things up. So, this is what, I was running 4 national tours a year, for example, right? So I did 6 national tours over 18 months. And in May this year was my last one. And, while that was working, it was freaking phenomenal. I loved it. I was having a great time. And it was like this tap in my business. Like I knew if I did a national tour, the money flowed through this tap, right? So the national tour was a tap. All my clients came from doing those national tours. And then in May, I went, bang. I burnt out. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I don't want to be away from my family anymore. What the hell am I doing? This is ridiculous. And so I turned that tap off. I just went overnight. I'm not doing any more national tours. Cancel the August and November national tour. I'm not doing it. Tap turned off. I didn't have any other taps plumbed, right? There were no other taps that were already plumbed in, ready to turn on when I turned that one off. So suddenly I'm living off the payment plans of my existing clients going, oh, didn't quite think that decision through, but there was nothing else I could do because I was so burnt out. There was no way I could do another tour. So it was like back to the drawing board, back to, with the team. And we tested and trialed and measured. We plumbed in a few taps and a few of them were broken and didn't work until now we've just recently turned on a new tap and just gone, there we go. We're flowing again. Right. But it was trial and error during that winter. It was like, okay, well, we're cutting back all that we're pruning fruit trees and we're going, that doesn't work. Get rid of that. Okay. What seeds are we planting? And, it's like when you plant seeds in the garden, it is a numbers game. Some of them will sprout and grow and they'll give you a great yield. And some of them will die. The bloody snails will come and eat them before they even get a centimeter high. Right. It's a numbers game. And so that's just, I've just been through that and we're just like, boom, we're back in spring again. Here we go. The fruit is here.
Fantastic. And what does that mean for the business? Like, where are you guys at now and where do you plan to take it?
Yeah. So when I was doing my national tours, what I was running was a half-day workshop in multiple cities around Australia. And so that worked really, really well because I'd get people in the room. I spent 3.5, 4 hours with them, delivering massive content, explaining how a signature system works. And that would work really, really well. At the end of that, people would decide to work with me or not, right? Easy. And so now what I've done is just a simplified version of that. It's like, well, that model really works for me. That's how I convert really well. That plays to my strengths because I love delivering. I love facilitating. That works really well, but I want to do it without the travel. So now I'm just doing once a month in a Zoom room, my online half-day workshop. It's like, Renee, that was not actually rocket science because I was doing an online version in my old national tours. It was one of the kind of venues was Zoom. But when I kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater when I cut things off in May. And it took me a few months to go, what if I just do the online one? Oh, that actually works. Genius. It's always been like one of my highest converting workshops. But sometimes I think when we're in that burnout stage and when we're in winter, we kind of need to go through a bit of the pain, I think, to realize what we really want. And so it did. It took a few months for me to turn it back around. And now we're like, okay, back. Online half-day workshops. And we listed it and it just filled, boom. And so we just know, okay, the tap's on. Here we go. Back in business.
I think that contrast is important that you mentioned. Like, if things were always smooth and easy, and one of our previous podcast guests, Alan Dibb, he was talking about that aspect of contrast. And, if things are always easy, we don't get the opportunity to necessarily innovate. We don't get the opportunity to explore and see things differently if we do what we've always done. And I guess in business, what we were talking about is that the moment that you think that everything's like working well, that's when the biggest red flag is. When you think that you've finally made it or your business is doing well, that's when you've actually taken your eyes off something that's about to break. Like when things are broken, I think that's the most enjoyable part of business now, because there is things to be fixed, and it kind of gives you an indication of where you should be focusing. Yet if everything's kind of working, it's like, where should we be focusing? That's when something sneaks up behind you and tends to kind of, pull the pants out below you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going through this stage because with the national tours, everything was like growing crazy, right? We're on this nuts thing. And I could have continued that, except that I personally didn't have the energy to do it. So I'd like, my team was expanding and so I'd built this business around national tours, and then suddenly cut off the national tours, and then went, okay, well now I need to restructure my team as well. Like it was a whole, when I'm talking about cutting dead wood, it was really like a painful process. Like there were people I didn't want to get rid of.
There's an illustration you can find on Google called the Business's Valley of Death. And it shows about how 4% of companies worldwide actually make it past $1 million a year in revenue. And there's these valleys of death that businesses go through at certain revenue stages. And I've noticed it's not just necessarily revenue stages, but like life cycles businesses go through, where they go through this expansion phase, then they might hit a glass ceiling, or not even hit a glass ceiling, but like slump into what we call the valley of death. And what's happened is they've hit some level of complexity, or they've hit some level of limitation around the business owner's thinking, because I honestly believe that a business will never outgrow the founder, and that we never have business problems. We only ever have personal problems that are expressed through the business.
Yep.
Now, recently I had a podcast interview with Brad Sugars, who didn't agree with me on that. He's like, no, we have business problems. And I'm like, I don't think we do. Like, I honestly don't think we do. I think that we have business problems because we're not focused in the right areas, or because we haven't implemented the right systems or the right processes. And that valley of death causes us to innovate our teams, innovates our systems or processes or our offer, and revisit it. And what you'll notice is that once you fix whatever has caused the system to kind of malfunction or cause that plateau, you'll instantly start to see the business take off again. And you would have seen this in your own business as well. It's like you hit that point that there's an issue, and the moment you find the resolution for that, the blockage is gone. The business can start moving forwards again.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. I totally agree. And I know this to be so true, that I have, as like when I was running the national tours, I actually had booked in a session with someone who works on my nervous system to clear out the stuff locked in my body that would stop me from making sales.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not making sales, I know 100% that it's a reflection of whatever shit's going on inside this thing. Yeah. Right. It's every single time. And I would have a session with Raquel, and I'd be like, okay, I'm not making sales, fix it. What's happening? She'd do, like if you've ever done work with the nervous system, it's amazing. And it's kind of almost Vipassana like the way that she works. But anyway, genius.
What, in silence for 14 days?
No, she lets me talk. It's amazing. It's even better. But it's about kind of observing the sensations in the body, and then she helps to kind of work through and expand your capacity, because we kind of shut down. If we've had some sort of trauma, we can shut down and close, and then that gets reflected in the way we communicate. And so, she helps to kind of clear that out. Anyway, that's a tangent. So what would happen is, after I'd go and do that, is then I'd go and make $70,000 in sales. So I know what you just said is so, so true, because it's just, I see it multiple times in my business. It's like, oh, I'm not making sales. I better go and have a session and deal with whatever mindset shit is going on in here, because it's me. It's 100% me.
I've got this woo-woo theory and principle that I've been working on for some time. I didn't think I was ready to share it, but I think the conversation is going that way. My feeling is that when a business gets to a certain stage, it takes on board its own entity.
Yep.
And I don't mean entity from a legal perspective. I mean from an energetic perspective, that the business starts to have a life of its own. It breathes, it poops, it pumps blood through its organs. And
it certainly poops.
Yeah, certainly poops. And that if you try to push the business too fast, or if you try to, like, for argument's sake, I remember in our business, we were at a position where we were growing fast. And I'm like, we should just double our leads and like our sales will double. You know, we've got capacity in our appointment centers. We've got capacity in our salespeople. We can certainly double the amount of new clients we're enrolling. So let's just double down the leads. And the interesting thing was that we doubled down the leads and we still booked the same amount of appointments, right? And it was interesting that the thing that changed was our connection rate on outbound calls to these leads. So it wasn't even like there was something internally that, like inside of our business, like the scripts, all of a sudden they got less bookings. They actually spoke to less people, right?
Wow.
Now, we don't have physical control of who picks up the phone. We were still calling clients, prospects at the same time of the day, right? This, like literally the moment we doubled down on ad spend, that week things shifted to where the outcome of that system was still the same as what it was prior. We're now spending more money on leads. Now, there might be some people out there that are like, this guy's just full of shit. And that's okay. But I've seen this thing time and time again in other businesses, that if you actually start to address the business as its own entity and find out what the needs are of the business, you can address those things happening. And this comes back very closely to what you shared about you, is that I realized that there was aspects in me that was limiting that ability for the business to grow, because it was essentially my baby that I birthed. And the moment I started working on myself energetically, let's just say energetically, nervous system, spiritual, whatever you want to say. Let's just say when I started working on my inner game is what we call it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your mindset stuff too.
Instantaneously, the business started to grow again and nothing changed. We didn't change any ads. We didn't change any staff. We didn't change any scripts. The moment I made a shift inside of me, we started connecting with more people. Now, you could say that's uncanny because nothing changed. Like we were still calling at the same time a day. And this is where things can get woo-woo. And we've got a whole study we're putting together around this. Like businesses have their own energetic life form. And when you start to treat them as no different than you would a staff member, right? That they have their own personality, you start to get a greater sense of what the business is calling for or wanting. Yeah. And I guess what I'm trying to kind of summarize here is that you start to develop this intuitive relationship with the energy of your business that is connected with your clients, that is connected with your staff, that is connected with your finances, that is connected with what life is wanting from you or from that business.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. I think there's something in that. It definitely it does have a life of its own. It does, especially when you go beyond being a solopreneur and you've got a team, right? Then it does. There's this other energy, it's an entity of its own. And if we don't actually kind of, it's like when you send your kids off to school or you send them off to school camp, right? It's if you kind of chain them up and don't let them go, then it doesn't work, right? And if we hold on to our businesses so tight as the founder, then the same thing can happen. We can strangle them and it doesn't reach its full potential. And we went through a bit of a growth earlier in the year because I'd come from the business vision and the mission and the values had all come from me in the past because it was my baby. And we actually I brought in an expert to facilitate a session where as a team, we created a new mission, vision, values because it was beyond me now. This new entity needed its own identity. Oh, did you like that?
Yeah.
The entity with its own identity.
We've had clients that we're like, what the hell is going on? Like they're doing everything right and their business has just plateaued. Like this doesn't logically make sense for the amount of times we've done this, or we've got a proven blueprint to grow our clients' business. Like our kind of known results is that we help our clients to triple their profit and double their time off in 12 months or less. And we had clients where I'm like, let me sit down with them. And I've sat down with them and discovered that there's been some massive inauthenticity inside the business owner. Like examples, they've been unfaithful to their partner, right? Never told anyone, right? Example, right? They've been deceitful. They've done this, they've done that, and never shared it. I've gotten it out of them lovingly and willingly. And the moment that's been released and resolved in their system, their business absolutely soars, right?
Yep.
And this is where there's probably a number of people right now going, man, these guys are like way. And
I don't normally do woo. Like I'm so tangible, so like strategy, but it's the reality.
Believe what you will. We've got like tens of hundreds of testimonies and case studies and sharings and results and wins around this kind of stuff. And I honestly believe that the best thing that you can do to grow your business is grow yourself and work on your inner game.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I look at the clients that I've had over the years, and the ones, like, I can tell the ones who are never ever going to make it in their business when I hear them speak, and I'm like, you're not going to make it. I can hear it in you. I can hear it in the way you're talking.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to fix your mindset. So
yeah, send it to us.
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't do that stuff. Like, I got lots of clients who deal with that stuff, but I don't do, you know, I'm all I can do is suck the genius out of someone's brain and turn it into sexy models, right? I can do that bit, but if your mindset's shit, well, you know, it doesn't matter how good your signature system is, you're not gonna be able to sell it.
Maybe you could take that like identity entity thing out of my brain and put it into a visual model.
Let's do it. Oh my God, so hot.
So we're totally off script, but that's all right. There's no scripts.
That's the beauty of podcast.
Tell us. Podcast is great. Live podcast, especially like it's very, very late here. What's the three best bits of advice you've been given in your 19 years as a business owner?
Can I flip that?
And ask me?
No, I mean, no. I was given...
What's the three worst bits of advice you've been given?
I'm going to say I was given two bits of advice that were conflicting, that were wrong on their own. So I'm going to flip it.
Can I see what that looks like?
I've got a Venn diagram. I want you to imagine a Venn diagram. One circle, right? Then do another circle where there's a space where they overlap. So, all right. So first of all, I was told, Renee, just follow your passion and the money will flow. Right? How many times have we been told that?
Yeah.
Just follow your passion, the money will come, right?
Yeah.
True or false?
It's missing a few steps.
Yeah. On the other hand, I was told, Renee, just go out and ask your clients what they want, sell it to them, and then build it. True or false?
Missing some steps.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing though, before you kind of debug this, I've actually seen people that come from a belief that if they follow their passion, they'll be successful, and they are, because that belief is so ingrained in them. And I've also seen other people that are less open, maybe than someone like myself, that like, oh, if I just work hard, I'll be successful. And they've done that as well, because they haven't necessarily had that intuitive, creative part.
Yep. So here's how it works. This is what I realized, because I would go, but which one is it? And I would swing between the two and go, I try that, but I created this thing and I really loved it. I got really excited, but nobody bought it. And then I'd go the other way and go, oh, I did this thing that my client wanted and I sold it to them and I made lots of money, but I hated it. Right? So here's the thing. I want you to draw a Venn diagram, get out a pen and paper, draw two circles where there's an overlapping part. In one circle, that circle is all about your passion, things that you love, the way you love to work, what you really want to do with your business. That is circle one. Circle two is what your clients want and they're willing to pay for. Right? Now, you can only ever, if you want to be successful, create the products and packages and the offers where those two things overlap. There's like a kind of...
Yeah.
That's your sweet spot. It's like neither of those things is okay on their own. They only work when it's both of them together.
Yeah.
And that's the realization I had a few years ago, and I went, why didn't someone just tell me that 19 years ago and put me out of my misery? Because I swung between the two going, oh, it's this, no, it's this, no, it's this, no, it's this. And it was both. So sorry, I didn't directly answer your question, but that's what I felt like saying instead.
You perfectly answered it. So for those of you who have been getting conflicting advice, maybe it's what Renee just shared, or maybe it's just other conflicting advice, put it into a Venn diagram and look at what exists.
Maybe it's overlapping. It's where the two, if it's conflicting, actually look at, well, what happens if the both things overlap? Because that's probably what it really is.
I love that.
Not one or the other, it's both.
Where can the Comeback Game Nation find out more about you?
Yes. Go to shareyourpassion.com.au/free training. Come and learn all about my visual models, because I get very passionate.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for your time today. I've got to ask, for anyone out there who's been listening or watching us for a while now, I would love if you jump onto iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Let us know what you love about the show and help us to get out there and reach more people. Equally too, if you haven't yet subscribed, jump onto iTunes, Spotify, and look up The Comeback Game, or jump on thegamechangers.com.au and make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with our weekly episodes. Renée, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I've had a bunch of fun.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
The least serious episode we've ever recorded.
Yeah, so you can count on me. Totally on brand, Barry. Totally on brand. At least I'm consistent.
Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hopefully getting you back on again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
If you're in a position that many of our clients were before joining us, which is that your business is controlling you rather than you controlling your business, we would love to have a chat to you to see whether or not we might be the right fit to partner with you to help you grow and succeed in business. And over the past 8 years, we've helped hundreds of business owners around the world to grow, scale, and succeed in business. Many of our clients report that we've helped them to triple their profits and double their time off in 12 months or less. If you jump onto YouTube and notice the hundreds of testimonies, you'd see that this is a common theme amongst them. If you're a business owner that's generating more than $300,000 a year in annual revenue, whether it's $500 million, $5 million, even $10 million a year, and you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, we might be able to help. If you're noticing that your business is lacking structure, maybe systems or processes, maybe you're not quite attracting enough or the right type of quality leads, making enough sales, or maybe you're even having issues finding, hiring, retaining, and training the right team members, we could be a fit for you. Ultimately, we believe that we never have business problems, we have personal problems that are expressed through our business, and a lot of the work we do is with you as a business owner, helping you to constantly upgrade the way that you see life, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you help construct a profitable and purpose-driven business. In order for us to do that though, you need to book in a quick 15-minute application call with one of our scaling specialists here at the Game Changers. Through the 15-minute call, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if or how we might better help you. If we can't help you, we'll let you know politely and do our best to point in the direction of someone that can. However, if we can help you, we'll look at booking you a 1-hour game plan session where we're going to dive a lot deeper into where you and your business are at right now, where it is that you want to go in the next 3, 5, and 10 years' time, and what are the potential roadblocks or challenges or even opportunities that are along the journey in order for you to get there faster. If you're really feeling that it's time for you to experience the love and the joy of running a business again, if you're really wanting to experience a business that does actually operate without you while still producing profit, we may very well be the right fit. So book in a 15-minute call, we can have a chat and see where we go from there. My name is Barry, and thanks for listening. Hopefully we get a chance to talk soon.